Welcome everyone to another MS Excel Toronto Meetup group. We are running the session from Toronto, but this is in fact kind of a global group. We have people presenting from all over the world. Our two guest presenters are from the US today. We have people attending from Europe, from Africa, from Arabia, I don't know, all over the world. So this is has become kind of a global community, which is great. There's people all over the world. Thank you for joining us and spending some time to learn a little bit more of Excel. We are always sharing and learning from each other. The group has started in 2019. For those of you who are new here, welcome. We run at least one session every month. We have a variety of topics, so just stay tuned with our posts on Meetup or the social media, and we will let you know what's going on. The presentation will be recorded. Today, our guests have informed us that you can interact at any time, so feel free to ask questions or make comments, but for sure they will guide you through that as well during their presentation.
If that's okay with Bill.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, all right, hot dog.
Beck, okay, here, be mindful that the session is being recorded. We have a YouTube channel where we will post our video recording a couple of days after the session happened. Those of you who registered for the session will receive an email, so stay on top of your email inbox. It sometimes may go to the promotions or spam or something, but you will get an email from us with a link for the video and any other information about our guests, any materials that they might share. So it will come through to you in a couple of days. Our next session will be in July the 13th. We will have our first session about the lambda function in Excel. So Owen Price will be telling us about all the functionality of the lambda function. I do encourage you to join us because this is a fairly recent function in Excel with a very different type of use that other functions may have, because this in fact is kind of a programming function. It will allows you to program custom functions in Excel. So, but Owen will tell you more about that. Just speaking about the next few sessions in August, we will probably will not have any session. But then in September, we may have 2 sessions, and we have speakers lined up up to the end of the year already. So bear with us. We have this post on LinkedIn by Faraz. Feel free to follow him on LinkedIn to get this post on time at the beginning of the month, every month. Faraz gathers the information from several meetup groups. We are here on the 22nd. There's still 3 sessions that you can enjoy from other meetup groups. And then July's post is coming soon, in about a week or so. A shout out to Microsoft Reactor Toronto. This is a program by Microsoft that exists in different cities around the world, including Toronto, and they run sessions, community sessions, presentations about all kinds of technology. Feel free to check them out if you are interested in learning skills not only related to Excel, but any other kind of technology, especially Microsoft technology. There's this meetup group on Facebook dedicated to Excel consultants. Feel free to join as well. So after the session, when we send out information, we send information about all these events and groups and things like that, or different resources that you can take advantage of. My Data Summit is one of the upcoming Excel events. I believe the early bird prices are still available. Faraz will be able to confirm that in the chat if possible. MyDataSummit.com is where you can find all the information. And finally, my course on Excel automation, specially dedicated to Excel reporting procedures, is not open at the moment, is not available for purchase at the moment, but you can enroll on the waiting list if you'd like to receive a notification when we open a new class. And you can also enjoy the free modules that are available. You can get information on these 2 links as well. And there we are. Here we have two very special guests, Oz du Soleil and Bill Jelen. These two guests are very dear to me because my Excel journey wouldn't be the same if it wasn't for them. Bill Jelen was, I believe, the first person I found on YouTube. And on my very first Excel gig, I thought I knew a lot of Excel. I very quickly realized I didn't know as much as I thought I did, and so I started searching online and ended up on Bill Jelen's forum on MrExcel.com. In fact, let me show you that. Let me show you our guests' YouTube channels very quickly. Here's Oz, Excel on Fire by Oz du Soleil, where you can find multiple videos, many videos about Excel, and a lot of them are about Power Query. Oz is very dedicated to data cleansing, and one of the things I enjoy about his, in fact, about both of you, both Bill and Bill and Oz channels, is that you very frequently post videos about things that are not working so well, or things that we should be aware of. So, for example, here we have 8 warnings on this video by Oz, and he very frequently makes us aware of things that we should pay attention because they may not work the way we expect. So Oz du Soleil was Oz du Soleil's channel was the very first place where I became aware of Power Query. So the two things now you see why these two people are so important for my journey and my Excel journey. And then here we have MrExcel, Bill Jelen, YouTube channel, 2,488 videos. What is this, Bill?
Yeah, right.
So you can find pretty much everything, answers to
Everything.
pretty much all the questions you may have about Excel. And the same thing, Bill not only answers sometimes very odd questions, or at least not so common questions, and also publishes about new features in Excel and things that may not be working as well or the way we would expect. Maybe they just not necessarily work wrong or bad, but not the way we would expect. And here, MrExcel.com is Bill Jelen's website. And if you come here to message board, this is where I ended up coming that first project where I was working, and was able to find help with the questions I had at that time. And this is one of the forums I always send people when I receive questions from people on my email, people that reach out on LinkedIn with questions about a specific situation in Excel or Power Query. If I do not have time at that moment to really pay attention to the question and take time to find an answer, I send people to Excel forums, and this is definitely my favorite one. And Bill, I frequently get feedback after from people saying, thank you for the suggestion. I'm now a fan of this forum because I was able to find help quickly and accurate. It was helpful for me, and they just get in love with the platform. So,
and you know, that's credit to the community, the folks out there that are answering those questions. Over 1 million questions have been answered, right? They collectively are just an amazing resource on Excel. Like I'll go out, you know, and end up at my own website. I'm like, wow, I never would have come up with that answer. So that community is just an amazing resource. So
it is.
Shout out to them.
Yeah, it is. People that are willing to help. And one of the things that I also recommend is, this is the best way, at least for me, to learn, is when we try to answer other people's questions, because that's a real scenario, and you need to find an answer for that. So if you do not have your own real scenarios to work with, spending some time in these forums is where you can find real world questions, and you can get some experience and learn from trying to help answering those questions. Yeah, so, and then we have Oz du Soleil has been an MVP for 7 years now, and Bill Jelen for 17 years now. So there you go. Thank you so much for joining us and for everything that you have been doing throughout these years, not only as MVPs, but even before that, and all the content that you put out there, and for your time and willingness to be here today to talk about data cleaning and other challenges in Excel.
Right. Okay.
So the stage is yours. So take it the way you think it's best.
All right.
All right.
Well,
go ahead, Oz. Say hello.
Well, hey there, everybody. Thank you, Celia. Thank you, Grania, for all of your support here. And thanks for everybody who is here to see what we have to whoop on y'all about this book and talk about Excel skirmishes. So thank you. And Bill,
yeah,
go ahead.
All right. Oz and I are excited to be here doing the Bill and Oz show, or the Oz and Bill show. But I have to just geek out for a minute. Yeah, right. So for those of you who might know my son Zeke, who's now almost 30, but back in the day, in 2004, 2005, he was right at the right age. And a movie came out here that was called Dodgeball. And for whatever reason, we had that on DVD, and I must have watched that movie over 150 times with Zeke. It was our favorite movie for, an entire year. And it was ridiculous that there was a sport for competitive dodgeball. And the joke in the show was that the sport was televised, not on ESPN, not on ESPN2, not on ESPN3, but on the fictional ESPN8, which they called the Ocho. Right. And they have a couple of commentators there on ESPN8, and it was just a great running joke. I'll sometimes make a joke, that the sport is so obscure that it's probably going to be on ESPN8, the Ocho. And for those people, like everyone in the world who hasn't watched this movie 150 times like me, they probably don't get the joke, but that doesn't matter to me at all.
Okay.
So a fascinating thing happened back in 2017. The movie had this kind of cult status, and ESPN took one of their channels for one day. It was August 8th, which was 8/8 of 2017. And they broadcast 11 events under the tagline of the Ocho, right? And each year it grew. They got to 19 events, 29 events. What types of events? Well, of course, dodgeball was on every year, but things like slippery stairs climbing, which is actually hilarious to watch. It's very difficult to climb slippery stairs, pizza dough tossing, stone skipping. And Oz and I just got confirmation that for the first time ever in 2022, August 5th, it's a Friday night, Oz and I are going to be hosts on ESPN8, the Ocho, in their first ever live, nationally televised Excel competition.
That's right.
That's right. Very nice. Congratulations.
How amazing. How amazing that finally Excel has reached cult status as a sport. And you're going to watch 8 people going through 3 rounds. So we narrow 8 down to 4, down to 2, and then finally crown a champion.
That's right.
Yeah. So they'll fit that whole 2-hour competition into 30 minutes, 23 minutes after they have commercials taken out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And you see how, when I hear from people talk about how they took some boring Excel class or some boring video, see, that's on the instructor and a lack of imagination. So you got to poke these people and say, look, Excel is on ESPN. It can't be fun. What do I have to do to shake some fun to come loose inside of you? That's what you do.
And the thing that struck me here is this past weekend, Oz released his latest video. And at the beginning, Oz du Soleil, LinkedIn instructor, Excel MVP. And I'm like, Oz, clearly, the fact that it doesn't say ESPN8 host, right? I mean, that has to be at the top of the calling card list from now on.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's going to be on Friday, August 5th. It's on ESPN2, or if you have the ESPN app, They haven't released the schedule, but there will be a schedule of all of these crazy events like stone skipping and slippery stairs climbing, and watch for Excel. It should just be a hilarious 30 minutes.
Good stuff.
And hopefully the first of many more televised competitions.
I hope so. Yeah. So and then Henry realizes orange is the color today. Yep, that is correct. Okay, Bill, what were you gonna say? You get ready to roll into the book, or you have some more?
Well, just shout out to Danielle Stein-Fairhurst, who's here, who's also hosted a competition that's been on ESPN3. And hers was serious financial modeling, and Oz and I are hosting the one that is weird Excel games, and we're the one that they picked. Sorry, you shouldn't have been so serious, but we lucked out. Maybe next year. Yeah, and I know Tim Heng has been on ESPN3 as well. So there's been a couple of these that have been on ESPN3, which you don't have on your cable system. It's only on the app. But this ESPN8, we're actually going to be on broadcast on ESPN2. So like a nice national audience for Excel, which is just a great thing, right? Having Excel in the news and not have it be, Excel caused the Enron crisis or something like that.
Right.
That's a great thing.
Yeah.
All right. So
yeah. All right.
So Oz and I are here today to talk about data cleansing and data skirmishes, and our new book that is now out in ebook. There's a link over in the chat, and I think August 1st we should actually have the first print copies of that book. It's Guerrilla Data Analysis using Microsoft Excel, Excel skirmishes, and conquering crap data.
That's right.
That subtitle, that's 100% Oz right there, and that big knife, that's Oz as well.
Right. Yeah. I picked that. But yeah, I'm excited about this book. So we want to talk about the progression and what started Guerrilla Data Analysis 1.
Right. Yeah. So I've written 67 books about Excel, or at least co-written 67 books about Excel. And my very first book was that book on the left, Guerrilla Data Analysis using Microsoft Excel. And this was back in 2002. I had launched MrExcel.com in 1998. And for the first 6 months, it was send me your Excel question. I'll send you the answer. Right. So I was helping one person at a time. After about 6 months, I was getting more questions coming in that I could answer in the 2 hours before work. So I'd get up at 4 o'clock, answer questions from 4 to 6, and then go into work to my day job. And when I was getting more questions than I could answer, I started a little message board out at the site to post your Excel question there, see if you can help someone else along the way, right? And that really took off. People started going out, even if you just go out, rather than play solitaire or Minesweeper, if you go out and answer, a couple of questions a day, you get to see what other people are trying to do. It's a great way to learn Excel. And that really took off, right? And then eventually I had enough traffic that I could become a consultant. And a marketing friend of mine said, this is crazy, Bill. You are giving 999 people an answer for free and charging one person a few $100s. You need to have something in the middle. You need to have a $20 price point, and people will be happy to hand you $20. So I wrote this book, Guerrilla Data Analysis using Microsoft Excel. It really went into a lot of details about how to use pivot tables and subtotals and data consolidate. It was all the kinds of things that I was doing, taking ugly data from a COBOL mainframe system and converting it into useful reports. And so that was my first book. It started to get some good reviews. My first print run literally was 10 copies. I printed 10 copies, and when I sold those, I printed another 10, and then another 10, and then 100. And then eventually 2,000 of that book. But that was my first book all the way back in 2002. And then Oz, tell us how.
Yeah, well, and Bill, I don't know if you really get this, but I'll tell you what, I was in a dark period like November 2013, and I had to stop pretending that everything was okay. It was around the time I had cussed at a client, only because I was just under that much stress. And he was like the straw that I just couldn't take anymore. It was bad. And so I was thinking about looking for a job and giving up on this consultant stuff. And then I asked Bill, how do you get clients? I sent him an email. He said, I don't know about getting clients. I know about writing books. If you ever have a book idea, you fire it at me. I didn't have a book idea. But he got back to me and said, there's this book I wrote in 2002 that sorely needs to be updated. Can I send you a copy and you see if you're the guy to update it? And when I got it, I said, hell yeah. And it was called Guerrilla Data Analysis. And I saw that it was written in these bite-sized pieces. Okay, so it wasn't like, you know, a whole bunch of 10, 20, 30-page chapters going deep on something very specific like pivot tables or something or formulas. And that the title Guerrilla and all these bite-sized pieces, I started thinking about it like a survival guide for if your ass is thrown into the fire with some data, what do you need? You don't need 400 pages of formulas. You need to know if, definitely. You need to know some, auto sum, the VLOOKUP, pivot tables. I think in that book, pivot tables was the longest chapter because I had to explain what pivot tables can do. Because that's what I saw in a lot of my courses that I taught was a lot of people, they didn't know what pivot tables were for. And then a lot of them, their data was not ready to go into a pivot table. So I had to talk about how the data's got to be all contiguous. And so I really loved it when I saw that book and appreciated this opportunity. But, you know, it really started with me stopping and pretending that everything was okay and reaching out and asking people, you know, how do you do what you do? So Guerrilla Data Analysis has gone, you know, it's been really good. A lot of people have liked that book. And then with all of the new additions to Excel, the dynamic arrays, Power Query, it was still kind of unknown in 2014, 2013.
Right.
It was there, but still didn't have the visibility it's got now. And Carlos Barbosa, he and somebody else poked us, said it's time for an update. But before that, Bill had contacted me and said he had gone back through some old book proposals where I wanted to write about skirmishes. Those things that make an easy Excel situation more complicated. You know, like diving into your data without checking the data quality first, right? Maybe all you do need is a pivot table, but have you dealt with all these duplicates? Have you split these columns apart? Dealing with clients who don't like the results, but the results are the results, but they were expecting something different. All of those kind of things can make things hard. And I believe that they belong in a survival guide, because it's one thing to show you how to row a canoe, but how do you keep the canoe off of a sandbar?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's we had that list. And if you've ever met me in a bar at an Excel event, and we've talked for a little bit of time, I've probably asked you if you want to write a book, right? Hey, do you have a book? And I have a spreadsheet of all these book ideas. And every 6 months, the distributor says, you got any books coming out in a year? And I go back through that list, right? And Oz was on that list with Excel Skirmishes. By the way, if you're watching this and you want to write a book, let me know. I'll add you to the spreadsheet, right? And I'll hit you up every 6 months and say, hey, what do you think? You ready to write that book yet? Yeah, so then I don't know, Oz, whose idea was to combine the two, put Excel Skirmishes and the third edition of
Well, it was yours because you had already contacted me about writing a Skirmishes book. And then we saw Carlos's thread on LinkedIn, and then you contacted me and say, you up for rolling them together, a Guerrilla Data Analysis 3 and the Skirmishes? And I thought that would be the perfect Excel survival guide.
Right.
Yeah.
And we got to add a lot of good things, right? So there's Power Query, dynamic arrays are in. I think we even some of these new things that just rolled out to beta, like text split, managed to make it into half of an example somewhere, right at the end, you know, after it had gone through editing and things like that. So it's fairly current, fairly up to date. It kind of looks like, just doing the trend line here, 2002, 2013, 2022. We seem to be on a once every 10-year update schedule for this, which is really bad, right? That is a horrible cadence, right? So this has to last us till 2033. Oof.
No, we'll work it out. We'll work it out.
No, we won't. Writing a book is such a pain. It will not get updated.
That too. And if people have questions about writing books, please ask, because that is a slow process. But I love what we put together here. I wrote about the let function, so that's in there. And a shout out to Bob for being the tech editor. Appreciated that. So yeah, okay. So
I'll have a challenge, and whoever first can thought them up. I mean, it's amazing to watch these guys. So whoever can write the fastest model to solve whatever challenges they throw out.
Oh, Winston.
These guys, they like modify their keyboards. They rip off like the F1 key so they don't accidentally hit it. They do all kinds of crazy stuff.
These are like serious.
Okay, I muted everyone. I guess we can now, you can unmute now yourselves, Oz and Bill.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Christian is asking how I wrote a book in a cigar bar. I have my laptop and I have like a $90 flat screen TV that I carry around. I go there, hook it up with the HDMI cable, and it's a big place. It's a big room. It used to be a restaurant. And so there are times I was in there by myself or just one or two other people, especially during the day. It's more after work hours where people start showing up. But I'm sitting there at a table with my headphones on, writing this book, smoking a cigar. You know, it worked. It was beautiful. And sometimes they'd let me stay there until after working hours, after the shop was officially closed. But
you were there the whole day sometimes, right? Like there'd be a week where you would be there all day, every day.
Yes.
The other patrons of the cigar bar were they like, what is this guy? Who is this guy? Why is he over here every day?
Right. Yeah. We'd talk. You know, they'd see me packing up and say, so what you doing over there? I said, I'm writing an Excel book. Oh, Excel. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the owners knew what I was doing. Yeah.
We should give them a copy of the book. Maybe they'll frame it, you know, and this book was written here. Like you could have your own table. It would be the Excel on fire table.
Yes. And Faraz has that long screen in the so let's see. So we want to talk about the book and also this contest to win one of 5 books.
Yeah, autographed, right? Autographed copies of the book.
And so we're asking, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go.
All right. So we want to hear your stories, and then we'll rate them. Your skirmishes, the level of horribleness is one criteria. The second, what impact did the problem have? What was at stake? Was it just you might win a $5 bet, or did you keep somebody from getting fired? Creativity of the solution, and did you become the hero at work who gets to wear your underwear outside your pants?
You know, we're laughing about that. Not really the underwear part, but I've had so many people come up to me and say, you know, we were watching your videos, and I use that to leverage a promotion at my job. I got a better job because of the videos. There was one fella who was delivering pizzas. He was a pizza delivery guy, and I'm sure this was horribly dangerous, but in the passenger seat, he had a laptop and he had Excel videos playing continuously, and then showed up in one of our data boot camps and had a data analyst job right after watching, you know, Mike Gervin and you know, all kinds of folks out on YouTube. All right, now in the interest here of just kind of getting the story started, and I'm by no means making fun of any of these. I love every one of these stories. These are all real things that happen, and I just love the process of coming up with the solution. You know, and so I want to start off with a couple of simple ones here, just to give you a flavor of what we're looking for. And this one was just from last week. I get a guy, he writes to me, and anytime I do a live seminar, I always make an offer that those people in that seminar have lifetime tech support in Excel from me, right? So I get Excel questions every day. You know, they have my secret email address, the secret subject line. I know that I know them. And this guy's like, the spreadsheets drive me crazy. He says, for whatever reason, in column D, I've done something and increase decimal will not work, right? So I came in, I opened the spreadsheet, there's 35 there. I clicked increase decimal, and sure enough, it's not working, right? Why is that? So the very first thing I did, let's see if it's a number. So I just came out here, is number. It's not a number, right? Well, that's why we can't increase the decimal. But then the question is, why isn't that a number, right? And you know, some of you may know me. I'm a VLOOKUP fan. I completely respect index and match. I understand it's better in every way. And I see the guy is doing an index and match, right? So let's go figure out where that index and match is coming from. It says there's a spreadsheet called items, and I come back here to the items spreadsheet, right? And I expected to see text there, but that's a live formula. Sum of D3 times E3, you know, and so equal is number. The data, what is number? Didn't type enough before I hit tab. That's a real number, right? So the lookup table has a real number, but somehow by the time we're getting back here to the spreadsheet, it's changing to text somehow, and it's formatted as currency. You know, everything there looks right. And, you know, a shout out to Bob Umlis. Bob Umlis has a suggestion that Microsoft definitely should do, and it's showing up right here in this very spreadsheet, because the formula bar is just showing up like a regular white formula bar. There's nothing in the formula bar that's flashing or colored or anything to say you're not seeing the whole formula. Right? And there's more to the formula here. They had pressed Alt-Enter, and sure enough, for whatever reason, at the very end of that formula, they had concatenated ampersand quote quote. And I can almost picture the guy, you know, someone over the cue ball saying, "Oh, you're getting NAs. You need to add if error and quote quote at the end." And he had a quote quote at the end of both, unfortunately. And once we got rid of that quote quote, then let me collapse the formula bar again. You know, and it was, look at that. So the poor guy was so frustrated, he had hit increased decimal a bunch of times, right? And they all were released. They became free once once I solved that problem of the quote quote, that quote quote hiding down there in the formula bar. You know, what a weird thing. Everyone has problems with increased decimal because they hit the wrong one. But this was a case where it just wasn't going to work for him because, yeah, right. So, you know, that was a little Excel skirmish there. It just took 5 minutes to try and trace that one down. But yeah, those are the kinds of things we're looking for here. So you just had a great video about how to become an expert in Excel.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the skirmishes that I deal with. But let me show something really quick. I'm going to share my screen.
All right.
So you get my screen now?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay. So when I was writing, I didn't know if this was going to fly with my publisher, but AKA Bill, right? Because I had this clip art going. And one thing that I wrote about as a skirmish, you see here, the dangers of just diving in. And so I made this graphic, and then, okay, so you ready? In 3, 2, 1, right? Dive in, and now you got problems. Okay, but I'm gonna stop sharing. So so you don't get my screen now, right?
Yeah, it's just you.
Okay, all right. So this last video was one of the skirmishes I deal with is how do I master Excel? Okay, I felt like that needs to be in an Excel survival guide because people fall in love with it. They get stuff happening and now they want to master Excel. But what does that mean? Does it mean you got all kind of fancy tricks that you can do that have no effect on anything? Or are you trying to learn everything in Excel, which is not practical and unnecessary? Or do you need to focus in on what you need to do what you got to do, while also looking for opportunities to branch out? Like one time I heard a client, he had me in to do some data cleansing, and I heard that he was looking for a web developer who could do some web scraping. And I was thinking, I don't know if Excel can do that, but I'd like to try, but I need something at stake. And so I went to this guy. I said, what website do you need scraped? I'll do it if I can, but I want to find out if I can do it. And he said, yep, boom. He sent me a website that had all of the golf courses in the United States. And I went through, got them all out using VBA code. But that stretched me out, an opportunity that I looked for that got me exposed to more Excel. And so over a long period of time and seeing a lot of different things, then I've become, I can add more value. But I would never say that I've mastered Excel. And the biggest thing that I say in this video is my value really is in, I might figure out something in a week that the client might never figure out. Yeah, and one time there was this small law firm, their payroll was stopped because they knew a spreadsheet was off, but they couldn't find it. And everybody in the firm over 3 days were looking at this thing. And they called me while I was at breakfast, and I said, okay, $300, I'll pack up and go home, but I can't guarantee that I can fix this. And yep, I fixed it in about 45 minutes. See, but that was because of all the past time that I had put in. So that is my answer to how do you master Excel? You don't.
You know, the thing I love that you talked about in that video is, you know, we now have just over 500 functions in Excel. We finally went over the 500 number, right? And it's not knowing all 500 functions, because there's functions in there that are so edge case, just for engineers, just for bond people, just for, you know, knowing all 500 functions doesn't, I don't think, buy you anything. I wrote one book where I had all the functions in it, and a real life household example for every function. And there were some really tough ones in there, but that wasn't useful, I don't think, because no one will ever need all 500 functions. You just need to know what are the various functions you can use to solve a certain problem, you know, and if you know 50 functions, you know, and probably the top 10 or 15 are the ones that you're going to use 80% of the time. That's the kind of thing.
Yeah, I would say you need to know how to pick the one or the ones that may solve your problem and which one is better appropriate for that scenario, right?
Yeah,
and another
right.
good skill is Googling.
Yes. And that opens you up and shows you some things. Yes.
You will end up on Bill Jelen's board forum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then you need to judge whether or not that situation is the same or similar somehow to the one you have on hands, and how to adjust it to make it work for your scenario. That's the expertise, I would say. It's to find a way.
Here's the best way to figure out any answer. make a video and post the video on YouTube saying, this is how I would solve it. And then you'll get 10 people writing in the replies of 10 better ways to solve it.
Yes,
you never thought
yes.
of it. Right?
Yep.
You think I'm creating those videos to help you? No, I'm actually looking for the best solution. And by me saying this is the way to go, that's a great way to find out the real way. Yeah. Right. Here, let me show another skirmish. This is I love this skirmish because this is a skirmish that really happened. I was at a seminar, half-day seminar in Calumet City, Illinois. So we're just below Chicago. And I always get there an hour early. I always wander around and talk to everybody in the room and ask if they have Excel problems. And I remember this wonderful lady worked in accounting, and she hit me with a problem that was just so frustrating on the face of it. She says, I get this file every day. It has 205 columns. And the first thing I have to do is I have to split that into 205 one-character columns. And which of course, first reaction, text to columns, of course, which is what she's doing. Data, text to columns, fixed width, but then in step 2 is the problem. In order to put in 204 tiny little arrows, it takes forever, right? And at this point, I'm like, all right, stop, right? I can already see this has to be horrible. And first reaction, because I was a longtime VBA guy, is we can do this in VBA, right? But even recording that VBA the first day, it's going to be one very long statement. And the beautiful thing about Excel today is back here on the data tab, this group here, get and transform data.
That's right.
Power Query is the go-to 90% of the time that will solve things. So I said, I'm just going to ask you to add a heading above this and make it into a table. And we can come in here and say from table or range. And of course, most things in Excel are also in Power Query, a little bit different. So split column by number of characters and one character. And then this beautiful thing right here called repeatedly, which just says split it into one character chunks. And there we are. There we are. Close and load. And we're done, right? So Calumet City, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago that I gave her this solution, and she was very happy with that solution. But here's the funny thing. That's not how I would solve this today. Today, thanks to dynamic arrays, the mid function, we want the mid of that over there. And which one do I want? I want all of them. So I'm going to ask for the sequence function, 1 row, 205 columns, starting at 1. Actually, I don't have to do that right there. That sequence will generate 205 numbers. I want each one to be 1 character wide. And what happened there? I'm getting a spill.
Maybe with transpose or something to get things.
Yeah,
going.
Maybe. No, it should be going sideways. What's up? Maybe there's just something in the way. Who knows? All right. Well, it worked. It worked in the earlier test.
Is it because it's inside the table?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Look at that table. Convert to range. Table design. I can't even convert to range. Why not? Because it has a query. All right. Hang on. Let's do this.
All right.
Just put it on another cell.
Yeah. Right.
On a column to the right or something.
Yeah.
You see, this is part of the riding that bull we call Excel.
That is hilarious. Why? All right. I just want one. Just give me a couple of things here.
We are here with you, Bill. Bill, you can do it.
Yes.
Thanks.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
That's right.
That's hilarious. Oh well, it works. Trust me, it works. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So those are the. Go ahead, Oz. Go.
Well, yeah. Just another one of those weird skirmishes, and then it's interesting to see how we both approached skirmishes, because Bill was looking at these kind of weird, quirky things, whether it's Excel doing it or how people use Excel. And then my skirmishes are the people and the situations, and sometimes seeing, I have a really nice Power Query solution for this client, and then hearing, well, we're a Mac only office. Oh
Yeah.
Lord. And then dealing with sales assistant who didn't like the calculations I was coming up for his and the sales reps commissions. Those are the things that make things hard. So one skirmish I write about is data is never 100% clean, at least not for very long. And you gotta really get that. Because so I had a job where my computer sat at the confluence of 3 data streams, and the data is supposed to mix, put people into single profiles, and then weird stuff would happen. And I would do the research to find out what caused, say, 2 profiles not to merge into one. Oh, okay, the person switched employers. All right, but it might take me a half hour to dig into that and do the changes, and then the database would update overnight, and I come back and hopefully the change took. But sometimes there would be something else going on in there. But ultimately, my director decided, he says, how many can you clean in a day? Well, 6 to 10, but then I got to come back the next day to see how many took, and sometimes 0 will have taken. And he's thinking, well, we've got all of these orders coming in from around the world, the website, the call center, 24 hours a day. Do you know how many errors are in the database? No. So you don't know when you're going to be done? No. So he took me off the job, and he said that when somebody calls with a problem, that's when we will make them a priority and deal with it. But trying to be proactive about it is too big. So he was there making a declaration that we know that this data has junk in it, but it's not realistic to try to clean it all. We would have to stop the entire world and put everybody in the world on this project in order to do it, and that's not possible. And so we have to accept that our data is never always clean, but we have to decide what is clean enough. And there was one time where we had a problem. Some irate people called because they got termination warning letters. The wrong people got termination warning letters.
No.
That's when it's time to stop. What the hell is going on? And when I got the data from the client, it looked like some messy copy paste happened because the ID numbers were scrambled. They weren't wrong, but it was like I had Celia's ID, Celia had Victor Momo's ID, Victor Momo had Grania's ID. So we had to stop everything and get that cleaned up. Get that as clean as we could get it. There was no, well, just wait for the next irate person to call and then we'll deal with that one person. No. We did have to put all the effort we could in there. And accept that, the world is constantly changing and it could be getting dirty as we're cleaning it. But when I cleaned those 5,000, we were good. Okay. But, and I had a vice president who once said that because we're dealing with some messy data and inconsistencies and stuff, and he's saying, we got to make a decision. Even if the decision is to do nothing about it and accept the consequences, we got to make a decision.
All right. I've got a great data skirmish. This happened to me. This was my very first job fresh out of college, working in an IT shop where we were writing COBOL programs. And so we were producing reports on an IBM line printer. It printed 132 columns wide. Everything was fixed width. And I remember, like my first week on the job, the head of the department came to me and gifted me, a very valuable antique, right? It was a metal ruler that you could put down on the piece of paper and see like that something was a character position 65, like it was designed for that IBM printer. And so as they kept adding more and more columns to the reports, you would take those long fields and make them shorter and shorter and shorter. And so our customer name field kept getting squeezed out, right? And we unfortunately had a series of customers. We sold to grocery stores, and in the United States, there's a company called Associated Grocers. There must be small independent mom and pop grocery stores, but it wasn't just Associated Grocers. There were a bunch of divisions, and we were selling to all of these different divisions. Associated Grocers, Oklahoma City, Kansas City, Florida, Midwest of the South, and so on. And so as the report got smaller and smaller, that column got smaller, the president of the company couldn't tell which Associated Grocers had placed the order, right? And this just incensed him. And he called the vice president of the IT department, and he says, if you people don't come up with a solution to this, so I can see AG Kansas, Associated Grocers Kansas versus AG Oklahoma City, you have two choices. It can be a slow, painful death or a fast death, right? I mean, the guy, he was just hacked off about this Associated Grocers, and there's nothing you can do. The printer's not going to print wider than 132 characters. You're going to use 2 rows for every line. That was hideous. And so, the IT department's like, there's nothing we can do about this. Right? But sometimes the solution is just right in front of you. And on this particular day, I have a display here. I have Krispy Kreme. These are chocolate ice cream filled donuts that you might buy at the grocery store today. But they're in Akron. We had a Krispy Kreme store, and you could get the cream sticks. I went down and I bought a dozen cream sticks, and I took them up to the accounting department. And I found this lady named Bonnie, who was in charge of accounts receivable. She was in charge of the customer master database. And I said, Bonnie, I got a bunch of donuts here for you and the people in accounting. I just need you to do one thing for me. And she's like, oh, what's that? I said, I need you to take every time that you have the word Associated Grocers, and I need you to change that to say A/G. What's A/G? I said, it's Associated Grocers. People will understand it, right? And so she did a replace all, right? And then our problem of Associated Grocers, Oklahoma City not fitting in anymore, all of a sudden it fit. And the company president, he understood that AG meant Associated Grocers, right? There was no confusion there. It was the stuff at the end of the string. It's a neat string, a COBOL programmer. The end of the string that mattered most to him, right? And he called. I had actually left IT at that point. I had moved out to the finance department. He's like, you people in IT couldn't solve this, and this kid up in finance, he solved the whole problem. Just cost me a dozen donuts on that day. Yeah. Right? So sometimes the skirmish has not really a whole lot to do with programming and just a lot to do with cream-filled donuts.
Yep, and people who have a good dental plan, right? Because if Bonnie said, I can't, you gonna get, no, I already got, but see, yes, Bonnie had a good dental plan. She liked donuts, and Bill was creative. And this is another skirmish. People, processes, tools. You can't always do things in Excel. So you can modify a process, and that's what happened there, leveraged by some donuts. See.
All right, we have to open this up and see if people have their own problems. I want to share the absolute worst person, the worst data problem that I ever met, and I wish I was making any of this up, but this is all 100% true. I show up at a seminar over on the Gulf Coast of Florida, and again, I'm wandering around talking to people, and an old accountant, a veteran accountant, walks up to me and he says, I have such a problem. He says, I left, or the firm left me. I'm no longer with the firm that I was with. And so I picked up the only job I could find. I am the accountant for the local fire department. And he says they just went through their budget process. And he says it's just horrible. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. And he shows me their spreadsheet. Now, this is fake data, but basically over in cost center, in column A, cost center 1001, they had all of the items they were going to spend for that particular cost center over the next year. And that was stored in cell C2. And it was an item, a dash, the amount, and then randomly, sometimes there'd be a second dash with a note. Like one of them said, don't double dip. That was really in the guy's spreadsheet. And, you know, I'm like, oh, hey, this is not how you use Excel. He's like, don't tell me it's not how you use Excel. I've been in accounting for 30 years. I know how to use Excel. He says, but here's the deal. It's 24 firefighters and me, and this is the way they've been doing it forever, and they're not changing. Oh, my God, that's terrible. I said, how do you get that total in B2? He says, yeah, let me tell you about that. The fire department owns 3 10-key adding machines, and they get 3 firemen who sit around a table. They give each fireman an adding machine. I would read the numbers, 4112.84, 2389.96, 1155.96. They all type the numbers in. Then they compare the 10 key adding machines at the end. And if all 3 match, they type the number in. If any one of them didn't match, everyone press clear and they start it again. Okay. I mean, the guy has like PTSD from telling me this story. He said it went until 3 in the morning. And of course, at 3 in the morning, no one is having anything match.
Man, Bill, you're making people cry. Come on.
Okay. So, you know, this happens to me all the time. Wow, what a horrible data situation. But gee, that you just got to get them to change, you know. But I mean, here you got this frail old accountant and these firefighters who know what they've been doing. They've been doing the budget this way, you know, for years before this accountant showed up. He's not going to show us how to do anything. And the amazing thing about this, I was shocked, like before the seminar started. So, you know, I met the guy at 7:30. Before 8:30, data, queries, and connections. I created a named range over here, and Power Query remarkably allowed me to take that data that was over there in column C. I mean, that cell C3, that's essentially, I mean, that's a Word document. That's Microsoft Word sitting over there. But I was able first to get rid of all the blank rows, because of course, you know, they had a blank row between every cost center. Why would they ever have a contiguous data set if they would do this? But split column by delimiter, I was eventually able to isolate. See right there. I was able to get the numbers and the note together, and then split column by delimiter, get the numbers as text, change type 3, get it as a number. You know, now we're home free. It's just group by cost center, sum details 2.1, and ended up with this 1 line per cost center. That's the total. That's the number that they were trying to use, right? And then just to make this even more special, it's not a straight Power Query solution, because watch what happens here. So we have a number of 45,294, 45,000, and I'm going to edit this cell, and I'm going to add 20,000 to that elderberry number at the top, right? So we're at 45,000 now. I'm going to press 2 and press enter. Oh, I did it in the wrong spot. Sorry. There, right there. I'm going to press 2. Yeah, I'm about to add 20,000. I'm going to press enter, and it will take about 1 second for cell B2 to automatically update, right? When he takes the solution back to the firefighters are going to be like, see, we told you this is a great way to use Excel, because it appears that it actually works. And that, Bob almost, I'm sure, already knows how I did this. It's just 1 line of code on the worksheet that every time you make a change, it clicks the refresh all button.
Wow.
So it runs that query. And, you know, now here, the thing that I feel bad about, this is not the right way to do your budget. You should never do your budget this way. But you just got a bunch of people who have been around forever. You're the new guy on the team. You kind of, at first, until you built their trust, you gotta go with their horrible, hideous method. But thanks to Power Query and 1 line of VBA, we were able to solve that. Yeah. And
that's sweet.
That's the amazing
thing about sweet. One last thing is you reminded me of this moving company that I went to go help. The president or owner had me come in because they were having data issues, and I go in there, and there's like 3 other people, older people, and this one guy brings me over. He says, "We don't really need you. We got a database. We don't use it." He had you come in because he's embarrassed that we're back in the old times. And he explained to me that these 4 friends back in the mid-60s started this moving company together. And their loyalty to each other was more important than whether the business was modern or not. Because it came up as like, okay, we bring in Excel and we bring in a database, then what is Lily gonna do? Well, Lily was the accountant friend who was doing things on cards in drawers, like back in the 60s. And he said, our taxes are right, they're accurate. Lily's been doing them since the mid-60s. That's how it's gonna be. And that's where I learned that all I can do is respect that. I was not needed.
There you go, Lily. Lily has it down. As long as Lily's with us. Yeah. It's funny. I have a program to build staffing for a museum that I volunteer at, and they have this expensive software that does all the math and gets it wrong every time. And we have our version of Lily is named Diane, and Diane, she can just take the thing without a computer, no spreadsheet, make a few phone calls, and fix everything at the end, right? So our process is we let the expensive computer software produce a schedule that's wrong, and then we hand it to Diane, and she has a telephone, a rotary telephone. That's not true. And Diane solves it. And I'm like, Diane, you can never quit because this software doesn't work, but we don't need the software to work with you. So all right, so here's what we have at stake. Autographed, that means that Oz is flying to Florida or I'm flying to Portland. I don't know which, or maybe we'll use the mail. So 5 copies of this book, Guerrilla Data Analysis. If you want to come off mute and tell us, a story that happened at your last job or your friend, you don't have to admit that it happened at your job. You can make it, like Mary in Chicago ran into this problem. Feel free to fictionalize it.
Yes.
And tell us, what the situation was, how it was screwing things up, and how you managed to solve it. And did you get a huge $50,000 bonus because of it?
That's right.
And if you did, then you could afford your own book.
If you're not driving around in your Tesla, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. So we got anyone?
Wyatt has to go. Wyatt is busting my chops about my hat, and then he's leaving. Okay, see, that's the guy that shows up and eats the pizza when it's hot, and then leaves when it starts to get cooled down. See, that's all right. Who got a skirmish to share? Nobody.
Everybody's quiet. I'm trying to think of something, but it's one of those situations where after the meeting I will think of a couple of things.
Yeah. I tell you one thing is another thing is what I've dealt with consistently is trying to get some idea of who is going to own a tool once I've built it. Are they somebody who's scared of Excel, worried that they might type over something and not know how to get it back? Okay, so now I got to build all kinds of protections in there, maybe even some VBA code that that'll refresh a pivot table because they don't know pivot table. So I just give them a button. Or am I dealing with somebody who has some familiarity with Excel, but just doesn't know how to do what I'm doing? Okay, very different approaches.
Now that you were mentioning that you need to think about what people are confident about using, right? The tools on one of my first job, in fact, as an Excel specialist at that time, was for a bookkeeper's company, and they had a process where every time they had a new task to assign to an employee, they would fill in a form in Word. And then someone would type in that some of the key points on a kind of a database in Excel, who is assigned to do what for which client, and here's a number for this production order, they would call it. And then someone would have to track those things. They had already some automation there in Excel, but a lot of things were still manual. And one of the things that the owner asked me was to find a way of automating that, a way of sending the information from the form to their database. And I ended up having to build a solution that would involve VBA in Word and then VBA from Word to Excel. And I was just starting. I don't even know how I did that at that time, but it ended up working. And just because they were too afraid of filling in an Excel spreadsheet, they were just more comfortable with filling in. And there was some text that would also help. You had to describe the task. There was a couple of texts but that could have been done in an Excel template, a sheet designed as a template. But because the users were kind of scared of Excel, I ended up developing that in Word, and it's still working till this day, a couple of years later. That was not an easy one, but it came through somehow.
Did you use VBA in Word? Or
VBA in Word and VBA from Word to Excel. So I built a form in Word with some of those fields that have drop downs or are meant to receive some type of a date or a long text or something. And then I ended up figuring out how to read from those form fields from Word to then post. So during the day, a number of purchase or production orders were being added by the staff to a certain folder, and at the end of the day, the manager would run a macro in Excel that would extract the information from all those Word files into Excel. That was a crazy one.
Wow.
That right there. I mean, if you talk about having to throw yourself into a deep, dark alley, going into Word to solve a problem just to make the client feel more comfortable, that's a crazy use, right?
But you know why? I did not know anything about Excel or VBA at that time. So because I didn't know about how hard it would be, I had someone paying me a full day, just find a solution. Okay, there I was focused on my job.
Yes.
Googling all the way, all the day, and just putting pieces together that I would find here and there and there. And okay, now this is working. There you go.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. At a later date, I tried. Someone asked me to build something else with VBA in Word, and I just refused the job because VBA in Word is quite different from Excel. Yeah.
Yeah, you learned your lesson.
Yeah. No, thank you.
All right. Well, what do you think, Oz? I think that just going into Word, that qualifies for an autographed copy of the book.
Yeah.
You're in.
Let's see if other people come in with their stories, because as the host, I think I should pass my copy to someone else, unless no one else comes up.
Okay, so I would like to share, not already, but the first thing I want to thank Oz and Bill, because we have learned Excel just looking at your post and everything, and today you're sharing your knowledge with our user group. I have very short two story. Just one is maybe 10 years back when I was just mid-level Excel person. I started my journey with VLOOKUP, and I was so excited learning that VLOOKUP in 2000, around 2001 around. So 10 years back, I was working on one solution where there were multiple business units under one umbrella. And each one of them, I was working in supply chain, so supply chain analytics and all. So each one of the unit, they had a different version of their KPI, like what they call late. Somebody was calling 5 days, somebody 7 days. And then they were rolling up all the matrix to the top level. So my problem was that how do you synchronize everything so that there is one definition? So it was daunting task. Like we wrote so many macros, and other thing was each business unit didn't want to give their Excel and data to us because we were outsider, right? So there was the resistance and all. Good thing was the executive pitch team, and then we said, yeah, Excel can do. You keep your data with you. We'll just write a VBA and we'll pull information that is required for us. So they said, yeah, it is okay. We were pulling everything from them, but we said, just we are going to write VBA. You keep your file with you, and we are going to do other things. So sometimes not a smartness work, but just to convince different way that, oh, you want data, just keep it with you. So yeah, we created so many macros we have written to pull data from almost 35 business unit and rolled it up to organization level, all the KPI, streamline all the KPIs. So there is one definition for that. But then we converted that because it was massive data that was flowing in. So then we use Access to read those data and give little bit more faster queries and all. Now, so many queries we have written, so many VBAs we have written in Access also. Now the problem came is when you own the tool and you don't have enough people, proper documentation and all, and when you leave, then there is an issue if proper transition is not there. So this one example why I wanted to give is it's not only good thing to just focus on creating solution, but also creating proper documentation, and you want to make sure that when your application you leave, application run seamlessly. In my case, we had a documentation, but our process died within 2 years because the manager didn't have proper transition plan to pass over. So as a consultant, why I'm saying this is we can do magic, but it's always you need to have a big picture in mind that what is the life cycle of your application and how it is going to carry forward. Yes. So second example I want to give is make it as simple as possible. So if somebody is familiar with Excel tool and all, don't make it too complex like Access and write in Access multiple application. We had a similar application we created in accounting side like finance side, but all using Excel. Thank God Power Query came into picture that time when I was creating, and all the automation what was done through Power Query was amazing. So, and it was as simple as there is no transition required that much. You just have a few buttons, you refresh, everything prepared. As long as you have proper Power Query written, then your data flows into proper format. So starting 10 years back, making it very complex to making it very simple, that is the advantage of Power Query. That's what I wanted to highlight.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yep. Great story. Boy, and just a shame to hear that after you left, within 2 years, the whole thing had fallen apart because the other people, sometimes if you hadn't gone through the pain before the system was there, like if you weren't there doing it manually, you don't respect how much easier it is now that, that you have your system.
And this is fascinating because I'm glad to be talking about this kind of stuff because there is the tool stuff, and then we're hearing more about data literacy, you know, understanding your data and how it hangs together and what reports are triggered by. But now we're kind of talking about data stewardship. You know, who's responsible for the data? Where does it go? Where does it come from? Transitions between tasks.
One of my favorite clients had a great line. He didn't like the IT department because the IT department wanted to know all of the specs up front and wanted to make sure that, you know, you wrote the whole thing. And he's like, I don't know where I want to go. He said, just do something and get me to first base, right? From first base, the field looks completely different. I might have other ideas at first base, right? And so he loved the little Excel solutions we would do because we could just get him, you know, 10% of the way there. And then he's like, oh, well, hey, well, now can you do this? And would head off in a completely different direction, which would drive the IT guys crazy. Right. There's a great story in the chat from, is it Cristian or Cristian?
Cristian.
Yeah. Who says he can't get on audio because his daughter's sleeping, but he ended up connecting Excel to a SQL database just to see if it was working so he can help a friend. And then his boss said, oh, this is great. Can you do this for all 40 departments? Right. And once you have that solved for one, you do it for all 40. And it saved 2 hours of work for 40 people each day, every work day. So that's 250 times a year, saving 80 hours of work, right? That's crazy. After 3 years, no one has to do this anymore. It's still working. And it's all now in a Power BI report, which is just beautiful. The newcomers in the company have no clue that they used to have to do 2 hours of work a day. It's just you know, Christian's file, which is that is a great skirmish right there. Yeah, it just started out as a one-off thing. Let's see if we can do this, and then once it worked, can you do it for everybody? So we'll give a book for that one. All right, who else? Does anyone else have? We only have 10 minutes left. Does anyone have another one?
I've got one that's I want to kind of dig in on that dynamic between the Excel jockeys and the IT department, which I think we've all experienced. I'd love to hear others' thoughts on it too. So at another company I worked at in the HR department, and they wanted us to, you know, send out compensation statements. Hey, you got a promotion, you got a salary increase, whatnot. And it had been done in Word and mail merge. So you can mail merge a spreadsheet into Word, obviously. And it was becoming too complicated. We had 7 templates, and I just looked at this and said, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I didn't really know how to do much VBA at that point, but I forced myself to learn and just write a loop that goes through. And basically, I built the letter template in Excel and wrote VBA code that prints it to PDF, names the file based on data in the file. So take it for the master comp file that the CEO approves. These are all good. And it spits out. And I think we looked at it so that we could test it. We had probably 35 different possible letter types because they had different elements. Like, are you getting a stock grant? No. Is your bonus increasing? Yes or no. So you don't have to have all those different letter templates, and it just automatically, the VBA hides or displays the rows based on what the data set is for each employee. And then went a step further and used VBA to automatically draft emails to the manager that was going to communicate those letters, find those files, attach them to the email, CC their boss and the HR person that covers their area and whatnot. And then I knew you can hit send, but that was a bridge too far for me. I just saved them in drafts so you could look at them and send them from there. And it was a huge success, and it did manage to live on after I left. The person who replaced me would call me and ask me, I don't know if it's still going, but for a while I was getting calls. How do I? Oh, okay, got it, cool. Gave him a little help. And then in a subsequent company I was interviewing for, I shared that in the interview with the head of like corporate engineering or business systems, who was one of the interviewers on the panel, and he was really dismissive of it. And said, why did you do that? Why wouldn't you, try a SaaS solution or something for that? So, well, we didn't have the budget for that, and we hit the limitations of our SaaS. It was ADP. We couldn't do it, and so this was the solution we came up with to make it meet all the requirements, do it quickly, do it error free, and And he said, well, would you do it differently next time? I said, no, I mean, I feel like I did it right, given the circumstances. And so I got that job at that company.
Wow.
And it was a software company. And very ironically to me, the same platform, ADP, and I wasn't on the comp team, it was a bigger team, and I sort of sat on the side and said, hey, if you guys need help, I'm happy to help. I recommend we run the comp process through ADP. And we were going down it, and then there was some politics, and so they punted it back to spreadsheets. So the comp team scrambling and doing things in spreadsheet, and because of politics, then they came to me and I just sort of, I'm not trying to be pushy, and said, hey, do you want, I could do this where we spit out all the statements and attach them to emails and get it ready to go. And then they came to me and were like, please do this. So I thought it was quite ironic that at that company where the guy who's sitting over corporate engineering going, we don't need any of that, right in your house.
Yeah, right. That's hilarious. Was that guy still there? The guy that wanted you to do it in SaaS, was he still with the company, or had he left?
He was still there. Yeah. He was just, bigger fish to fry.
Right. I got you. That's a great one. All right. Wow. We'll send you a book for that, Gavin. That's awesome.
Amazing.
All right. We got one book left. So we have 4 books, Celia, Vivak, Cristian, and Gavin. Anyone else got a story?
I've got a story.
I have a story. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I've got a story. I built a certificate generator in VBA a few years ago. The logical way to do that would have been to do it in Word and mail merge it, like Gavin said, from Excel. But no, the boss had designed the certificate in PowerPoint. So what I had to do was take the data from Excel, which had been pulled out of a training booking system that I built myself in SQL, run it through some VBA into PowerPoint, then use some VBA to split the PowerPoint file into separate slides, PDF it, and then take the data from Excel, which was the email addresses. And I did go that step further, Gavin. I did actually hit send and sent these certificates out to individual people. But with the option, it was an in-house thing, so with the option of actually printing them as well. So dialog box pops up. Do you want to email them? Do you want to print them? Yeah. So that was my little story.
That's great. Yeah. All using PowerPoint in VBA. That's a lot. It's a lot of VBA that's not Excel.
This is great. I'm really liking this conversation to talk about all these things, these restraints, clients demanding stuff, bosses demanding stuff that say, okay, my nice, clean solution does not work. Like what the Mike Tyson thing is, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Well, there you go. Now you got to do something different.
Okay, so the PowerPoint, that was Mike Thomas, right?
Yep, that's me.
Yep, and then I heard Faraz G's voice.
No, I was saying, Mike, that Mike could have converted this into solution actually, because there was a lot of demand for this particular like a functionality.
Oh yeah, cool.
So Faraz, I heard you.
Yeah. There are a lot of things which are there in my list, but one of the favorite one is that I have received a list of 109 files, and they have 4 to 5 different sheets, and those are like quotations, logistics quotations, where you have point A to point B. So just imagine that there are 105 locations and you have different cost elements. Those are in a tabular form. I need to unpivot every single file, make it in a tabular structure, and then make it sure that that file is available for the analysis purpose, and you can find it out who is the lowest bidder, and you can seal the deal. So the challenge here was taking those 109 files, you analyze them, then you go back in the market and say, then the guys, your prices are not meeting them, you shortlist them, then again you reevaluate them, and then again you do the same process till you come down to really a competitive bidders. So this entire process have to be done within 21 days, because the guy who was taking care, he backed off because he said, this is a lot of data, I can't do it. And somebody then recommended my name that you can go and check with Faraz. Maybe he can help you out on this. and I just spent 2 days looking only the data in the file, understanding the pattern of the data where I can track it. And after that, I created a solution in Power Query and little bit VBA, which made it into a proper tabular structure. And those were around like 40,000 line items in Excel. And from that, then we were able to analyze it, where we should go and get it, because it was a very huge file, huge numbers, and huge savings, that has happened. I'm very proud about that project. And one which I did it very simple was in Excel. I use VBA, and it is right now it is running like you have deliveries coming in, and then you just enter it into Excel workbook, and you just create a PDF. It will automatically create a PDF and send it to the people, those who should know about it. So when the person used to do this work, he used to spend like almost like 1 hour, because you need to update the entries in SAP and then in Excel, then send an email. There are errors in the email. Sometimes he forgets about the email. So I just simplified the process. I told him that you enter it in Excel. I made a simple pivot table and converted that pivot into PDF whenever he sends it, and that PDF attach it to the email and send it with all the people. So I'm happy that now that entire process has been cut down into 10 minutes. So,
wow, that's great.
Yeah, so that's lovely.
All
and
right.
I did something for myself only. I have just shared the video where whenever I used to organize and meetup events, the logistic things is very difficult when you organize the meetup. So with Power Automate and Excel, I managed to complete my 2 hours task of organizing Excel event, the meetup event, into 4 minutes using the Power Automate and Excel.
Wow.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yes.
All right, there we go.
And
So
the inspiration are you guys.
Thanks.
The inspiration behind is Bill and Oz, Mike, everybody is on the community,
That's cool. All right.
Thanks.
So we've hit time, right? It's 7 o'clock. I have 6 names here, including Celia. We will get you a book and we'll get them autographed. Right. So thanks for sharing that. Thanks for spending your time with us. Celia, do you have any final announcements or anything?
Yeah, let us know. Everyone, I assume that everyone here may know you already, but if you want to share any final notes where people can connect with you, that would be great. I'm saying this because not too long ago on LinkedIn, I shared something, or I answered to someone on a post, and I mentioned your website, Bill Jelen. And the person said, "Oh, thank you for putting Bill in my radar." I said, "How come Bill is not on the radar?"
That's funny, yeah.
So just to make sure everyone can find you, either the people today or someone watching the video later sometime on our YouTube channel, let us know how people can connect with you.
Yeah, just
and how they can build. And how they can purchase the book. On the chat, there's the pinned comment at the top of the chat window. You can find it there, but maybe we can also repeat that link just below so that anyone interested in getting the book can get it.
Cool. Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Yeah, so MrExcel.com, the great message board there. On August 5th, don't forget, on ESPN2, Oz and I will be there for 30 minutes at some point hosting the world's first televised Excel competition. Check that out. On ESPN 8, the Ocho. So, yep. Oz, how do we find you?
Find me at on YouTube at Excel on Fire. That's primarily where I'm at.
On fire. I love it. All right. That's great.
Thank you so much for coming.
That's Victor Momo. Victor Momo is the one. You don't find Victor Momo. He finds you. That's it. Because I told a story. But did you see that video, Bill, Celia?
Yeah, I saw it. It was very funny.
When I rode my horse to Nigeria, to Lagos, and I learned Lagos is not Lagos. Lagos.
Oh,
yes.
Look at that.
Yes.
Geography too. Celia,
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
It was great.
Thanks.
We could stay here forever listening to these stories. Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Or a great morning, depending on where you are.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.